And welcome everybody to episode 95 of the Paws Up podcast. We are 5 episodes away from 100 at this point. That's crazy. But we want to cover as many sports as possible, and we have a recent hiring here at FIU Athletics. The fifth head coach in FIU women's soccer history is none other than Matt Dunn. Coach Dunn, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing great. Happy to be here with you guys.
All righty. I am, of course, Jay Gibson, joined alongside my friend and co-host Kevin Barral. And Kevin, we're getting so close to 100, man. Can you believe it that soon we're going to hit the triple digits?
Yeah, definitely. But I'm excited for today, having Coach Dunn here on with us, and excited to get to know what the future of the women's soccer program looks like. You know, trying to go back to back. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes.
The defending CUSA champions being at the FIU Panthers. So, Coach, before we get to Matt Dunn, the coach, we got to learn a bit about Matt Dunn, the player, to start. You know, where did that desire to compete in the sport begin in your life, and just what made you go with soccer?
Obviously, growing up in England, that's the only thing. It's the only sport we know. So got thrown into it at a young age, fell in love with it, played it every day at school, at home in the street, and then just continued to play and grow from there. As they say, football is life. So we did just that all the time.
Oh no! Don't tell me you don't call soccer soccer. You call soccer football, don't you?
It depends who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to people back home in England, I have to say football, otherwise they won't talk to me.
What position did you play?
I came over to the US as a midfielder, but in the end, My coach pushed me to a sweeper, so I played sweeper after that in college.
Sick. So you had mentioned you're originally from Sheffield, England. I did research, just east of Manchester, south of Leeds. How does a Brit such as yourself end up moving to the U.S., let alone becoming a student athlete, all the way across the pond at Northwood College, of course, now known as Kaiser University?
I kind of, in a way, followed my brother. My brother actually went to Lynn and played at Lynn before me. So came across and visited him at Lynn, saw Florida and saw what was around there. And I was fortunate enough to kind of piggyback off his name and got some tryouts, went to a few different places and ended up finding a home right there in West Palm Beach. So it was a good trip for me in the end.
Jay kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but the love for soccer over there is huge. Like that's the sport over there, the premier sport. Where would you say right now here in the U.S., where do you think the love for soccer is? How much do you think the sport has grown here? Obviously, Messi coming here definitely helped a lot, I'm sure. But just where do you see the sport of soccer here in the U.S. right now?
I think it's obviously on the up. It's growing. I know I've been here 21 years ago, way back to when Beckham came and joined the Galaxy. That kind of pushed it on a little bit, and you saw a little bit of a boost. But nothing as what's happened now with Messi is an even bigger boost, and all eyes are on it. And you just look at the home games or the away games that Miami play. The stadiums are full now, every game to watch. But it's not just Miami now. People are actually starting to follow other teams. You watch the LAFC, their crowd that they're getting in there. I think it's sneaking up on everybody. Everyone's kind of enjoying to watch it. It used to be fourth or fifth sport over here, but now I think it's closing the gap. It's not caught up yet, but a good run in the World Cup for the men and the women could really help push it onto that next level as well.
100%.
Yeah. Hosting the World Cup in LA is definitely going to help. It's not that far from now. And like you had mentioned, every single time an MLS team takes on Messi, they have to move from an MLS stadium to an NFL stadium just for those extra seats, and they sell those things out. It is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how the fan base to follow just Messi is not just here in Miami; it's all across the country. So it's good to see.
For sure, yeah, definitely. Coach, talk about when you decided to start coaching. Who kind of brought that up for you? Why go into coaching? Just if you want to give us a little bit of that backstory.
Everybody knows once your career kind of ends in college, I knew I was never going pro. I was fine with that. I accepted that a long time ago. And my coach at the time just said, hey, would you like to move from playing into the coaching? At that point, definitely didn't want to go back to England because I was in love with Florida. So I was like, okay, I'm 25. I don't really know what I want to kind of do in my life. So I'll take that as a chance. And I'm glad I did, because I fell in love with it from there and just carried on learning and growing as a coach, as an assistant, moved to the associate role, and then finally moved into the head role. So it was something that I wasn't planning for. Just know I wanted to stay over here in the States, but obviously stay involved in soccer. And it just happened to fall into place at the right time for me, which was great.
I think it would take a while, Coach, to talk about some of your favorite memories as a head coach at Northwood, a.k.a. Kaiser. So I'll just ask you this. What will you most remember from your time with the Seahawks over all those years?
I don't even know. There's that many different games where we've won conference titles in big games. Obviously, we've won big games at the national tournament, winning the whole thing. If you had to really pick out one highlight, it would probably be when we did repeat and went back to back, because we won the game in overtime on a game-winning goal. So the game just stopped. So it kind of makes it a little bit more exciting because it's it's over in a heartbeat. It helped as well that we were playing our biggest rival that we'd kind of had for over 5 years of a span against William Carey, and it was nice to repeat on them because they'd beaten us early in 2018 in the final, so we kind of got revenge back there. So that would probably be the career highlight if I had to pick one, but there's too many to go down the list. It'd probably take hours. Your resume at Kaiser speaks for itself. But let's talk about that transition to FIU. What is it? It's convenient, right? 40 minutes south of Kaiser, I want to say. Maybe minimal traffic. Yeah, I think it depends on the day. It took me 3 hours to get here last Monday. This Monday, it only took an hour and 5 minutes. So it's not a bad commute, but we're looking to move the whole family south, so we won't be doing that commute much more.
Yeah, you better get down south. 3 hours isn't fun.
Well, ultimately, when and where did the initial conversations about joining the Panthers begin, and ultimately, what made you pull that trigger to just join FIU?
The old associate head coach Eric was a friend through playing against each other many years ago when he was at Johnson and Wales.
Okay.
And he was the chair of the conference and I was the Raider. So we actually had contact throughout the season as well as playing against each other. And then when he moved on, we kind of still crossed paths at different points. He came here and obviously the program was in an upward trajectory. And then with the coaching changes, he told me only good things about the place. And at that kind of junction, I was like, do I want to stay at Kaiser for another 20 years, or do I kind of want to dip my toe in the water and see what it's like at that Division I level? Talked with my family and kids, and they were like, let's go for it. It's perfect timing because they're both graduating from different schools, so they're going to need new schools. I came and kind of took a little look around unofficially on my own and, fell in love with the place there. And then once I met the staff here and got a kind of lay of the land on where the program's going, I was like, yeah, I can get behind that. So really the decision was made in pretty much about a 10-day span. It wasn't something that was kind of drawn out with interviews and visits and all of that. It was like, come down, have a look, meet people. Okay, this is going to work. So
how much easier did it make it for you knowing that FIU had just won the Conference USA title, and this is a team that's still fairly young, has a lot of pieces from that team of last year here for this year? I mean, how much easier did that make it for you to say, all right, let's come down and let's try to go back to back, hopefully?
Obviously, I guess it's a double-edged sword because you're coming in with expectations. If you're coming in to build a program, you've got time. But when you're coming in to a team that's done the double, won the regular season and the playoffs, there's pressure there, but that's a good thing. It means that the group's moving in that right direction. Hopefully sprinkle in some new players and we can carry on and do a repeat and go back to back. That's definitely what I talked about with the team before they all broke up now for summer. We're not coming in here just to make up the numbers. We want to go back to back and kind of become a bit of a staple in Conference USA.
You've been here for about a month, I want to say now. Just at first glance, I know you kind of spoke about it a little bit. Just what were your thoughts on the facilities, the campus, and you know, just everything? How was it compared to Kaiser?
Well, obviously, campus-wise here, it's probably 10 times the size of Kaiser's campus. First time that I brought the whole family down to show them around, I actually got lost trying to find different places, which is crazy to think of, but we were lost on campus looking for Chick-fil-A, which was funny. We got there in the end, but it took us about an hour. But beautiful facilities, you know, there's everything here to build a successful program, and that was another big reason for the switch. Is I can see the infrastructure on where the school's going. It's growing pretty fast, and there's buildings going up for different things. So that was all great. And then, you know, meeting the team and getting eyes on those guys for 2 weeks of practice right at the very end of the season was good, because I was able to just spend time kind of meeting them all individually rather than, you know, just day one here, this is your new coach. We actually have been able to kind of build little relationships and get to know each other before the break, which helped.
Yeah, just also talk about the transition. I mean, you're going from NAIA to Division One, definitely a huge jump. But you know, just how do you think that'll adjust for you? I'm sure. I think you've played FIU before, maybe in like scrimmages or whatever it may have been. So maybe you've got the look or played other Division One teams before.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that transition? How do you think you're gonna maybe adapt to that?
It's a lot of learning at this very beginning, these past 3 weeks, in terms of more learning just procedures and policies for not just for NCAA, but also FIU. The school's got different ways of doing things. So at this minute, it's like, here's a lot of information getting thrown. It's like, can I not just go do the coaching part? That's what I came for. But we've got to, you know, make sure we're doing everything the right way. So it's a little bit daunting at the beginning, but it's a challenge that I knew was going to be there, which I wanted to take on board. It's exciting. You know, it's that kind of scary unknown kind of excitement versus I'm scared, because we're still playing the same game. So that part doesn't change. Now it's all about the expectation and what I put on the team pressure wise and what I put on myself and managing that. But as a whole, the procedures don't change too much. It's just really kind of making sure you're following the right rule book now, because the NAIA rule book is a little bit different to the NCAA.
And if there's one thing in D1 NCAA that is kind of going off the rails right now across most sports, it's the combination of NIL and the transfer portal and how it affects teams in the span of a year as opposed to what it used to be. Obviously, now that you're part of a D1 program at FIU, how excited are you to get the most out of those two specific features here as opposed to what you were able to do over at Kaiser?
Well, very excited, because it makes things easier, I guess you could say, in terms of all the information's going right there in the portal. But it also makes it harder because everyone's got access to it. So it's taken away the hidden arts of recruiting, I guess. Now it's like everything's at the click of a button. So from the portal side of it, it's definitely something a little bit new, because we don't have one, or didn't have one at the NAIA. We still had access to certain platforms that people have created that looked like the portal, but it wasn't the official portal.
Right.
So being able to use that daily is going to be something that's very interesting. And then NIL that's a whole different world, which I've got to really dig into that and make sure we can use it the right way, but it's figuring out how to use it. That one's definitely an interesting one all around in all of the sports, not just soccer. You look at some of the things and deals and platforms people are using for that. It's exciting for student athletes.
So we can be honest here for a second, Coach Dunn. You mentioned when it was officially announced that you would become the next head coach of the Panthers, that you were forever grateful to the Seahawk family when you were initially hired here. What's the one thing you would say you would miss you will miss the most from your time at Kaiser, that you think that you're hopeful that you can either create or expand upon here with the Panthers?
We had a good family atmosphere up there. Obviously, with me being there for so long, we'd grown roots there, and it was just like a family. So my plan is to hopefully instill that same kind of sense here and kind of grow it just like I did there. My assistants at Kaiser were ex-players, that type of stuff. So we kind of stayed along that path the whole way. So if we can build that here, it takes a bit of time, but if we can move that model over here, you see good things kind of grow out of it where people don't want to leave because they have such a fun time. When you get that going, then you're on the right path. So I would say that sense of family that we had there is what I'll miss from there, but hopefully I can recreate it here.
I am curious because you mentioned, you being a former player, your assistants being former players. How much does that help? How much does it help you guys as coaches to relate to these players and situations that you guys may have been in at one point that now, these girls are in at some point? So just how much does that help, you think?
It's a big plus. It's a big positive because you can kind of see what they're going through at that time in their life or their career as a player at the school. There's different times. Obviously, when they first get there, you've got that homesickness, or as they're coming to the end and they don't know where they're going to go next, or it's up and down the whole way through their 4-year careers, and you can relate a lot easier. Having former players become staff members, that also then creates good bonds with the coaching staff because they already know the setup. You're not having to they already know the kind of family culture because they've been in it. Now they've stepped over the line into the coaching side. So they're able to relate even more than I could with the players because they're closer in age and closer in the situations. So that's good. And they all want the program to win. They're invested in the program. So it's kind of an all-round win for everybody because that they're willing to go the extra mark or the extra mile because it's part of their life, kind of lifestyle.
So, all right, that was pretty fun just to get to FIU here. But you've been an awesome guest so far, Coach Dunn. But Kevin, quick question: is it time for a quick look around FIU athletics?
Let's take a look.
All righty, let's see what's going on here in the world of FIU athletics as we start to get to the home stretch of the spring semester when it comes to sports. So let's take a look at what's going on with baseball. They're going to be coming off a series again, a midweek series against Miami over in Coral Gables. They have a couple of series to go until we get to the CUSA Championship, starting off with a home matchup against the Liberty Flames over here at the FIU Baseball Stadium, starting on Friday, May the 9th at 6:30, and then finishing up on Sunday, May the 11th at noon. All three games can be seen on ESPN+. And then before you know it, they're going to head on the road to Sam Houston State for one final regular season series before those CUSA championships pop up in Lynchburg. That'll start from May the 21st to May the 25th. Next up is softball, who is also going to be coming off a series against Liberty. However, their postseason run is going to start a little bit early as they're already in the CUSA championships which began back on Wednesday the 7th and will continue on to Saturday, May the 10th over at Bowling Green, Kentucky. So, of course, we wish the softball team the best of luck in grabbing a Conference USA title. And like I said, we're starting to get to the slow period here at FIU Athletics. So let's take a quick look at both men's and women's cross country and track and field because they are in a similar spot to softball where they're gearing up to take on the rest of Conference USA in the outdoor championships over at Murfreesboro, starting on Friday, May the 16th, and continuing to Sunday, May the 18th. It's an all-day event. And then after that, the NCAAs begin with the East Regionals being over at Jacksonville on the 28th to the 31st, and then the outdoor championships being in Eugene, Oregon, beginning on Wednesday, June the 11th to Saturday, June the 14th. That was a pretty brief look around FIU athletics. Now, Coach Dunn, let's start to get into the expectations for this upcoming season for the Panthers. Kevin, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, we kind of spoke about it a little bit, Coach. But, one of the things you mentioned is you want to continue to build on the success. You want to make sure that, now what was last year is an expectation. How do you kind of continue to do that? How do you make sure that these girls are ready to go for the upcoming season?
We're going to obviously we have to do a lot of planning over the summer when everybody's actually not here. There's going to have to be a lot done in our spare time that gets us ready for when we get here in August. I think the expectation is going to be something that we've got to manage. We're definitely going to be breaking the season down into kind of two sections. Here's the non-conference. Let's get our way through that, which is an all regional schedule. All the teams are Florida teams. So we definitely want to be kind of standing out in Florida as best we can. And then hopefully the winning ways will carry over into Conference USA when we go to defend the Conference USA title. I've always found that breaking the two, kind of making them both mini seasons, helps the girls kind of manage that expectation rather than just clumping it all together.
I do want to ask you about Conference USA because you're adding two new teams with Delaware and Missouri State. How tough do you see this conference? It was tough last season, but you guys were able to stand up and stand above the rest, I guess is the best way to say it. Just what are your thoughts on the conference at first glance, or maybe looking at from the outside in?
It definitely getting better and getting stronger, obviously, with the addition of the new teams. The way the conference has kind of divided up the schedule, it's not been kind. We'll say that we've got a good conference schedule where we're going to be tested, whether we're on the road or at home. But this level, you want to play the best teams, and if you're going to win it, you want to win it by playing the best teams, and by playing the best teams, that prepares you best for the playoffs. If if you're having a good run through the conference schedule against the stronger teams, when you come up against them in the knockout stages, you're ready for it rather than, you're kind of just going in there blind. So, you always want to play the stronger ones in the conference so that you can get eyes on them early and ready for that playoff run. I think there's a lot of travel involved in the conference, which you've got to manage that, but it's definitely a conference that I see with the addition of the new teams, it is getting stronger.
Mm-hmm. So knowing how you recruited players over at Kaiser, I know we talked about the transfer portal, NIL and all that. Just, are you going to keep your method similar here or sort of change up how you bring new talent to the roster like we had talked about with some of the new tools and features available to you?
I'll stay true to how I recruit and the standard and the level of players. Obviously, like you said, that Kaiser roster was all over the world. Here we are Florida International University, so international's in the title, so that helps. But with the Division I title now, we can go after local talent that I couldn't get to come to the NEIA because they just wanted that Division I kind of title. So that does open up some more doors for me that in the past weren't really there, which kind of forced us to go into that international realm a little bit more. But I see there being a good mix of international and domestic on the roster coming in the fall.
One thing that definitely is for sure that you lost players, and that's not just you, that's all college teams, and that's just mainly because of graduation, because this team was already pretty experienced, had come up with Coach Garber throughout the years. But you also have a lot of players running it back with you. Just who are some girls you're excited to see take the next step in their development? Or, you have Valerie Restrepo, who will probably be your goalie in day one. She was awesome last season. Just who are some players you're excited to get to watch in 2025?
Yeah, well, obviously you mentioned Valerie there coming back as a returning all-conference player. From the 2 weeks I've been able to spend, you can see her talent. So that's a good starting point that you can build forward with somebody like that at the back. So that's a good thing. Two players that came in the transfer window, I guess you can call it, for spring season, so weren't here in the fall. That's Noah from FAU and Jake came from UCF. So we picked up two good pickups there, which they both actually went and represented their countries 2 weeks ago, which that's a good thing. So we're excited to see them. Zora is going to be somebody there on that back line that can really make an impact this year. Both of our Japanese girls definitely can step up in this year now that they've got, a little bit more experience under their belt and know what's coming, I think there'll be two players to definitely watch out for.
All righty, Coach Dunn. Let's you've been an awesome guest so far. Let's start to close up shop here with some fun rapid fire questions to ask you. And I know this first one's going to be a bit tricky. You just got here, I get it. But so far, who are some of the funniest members of the team / coaching staff that you've had the pleasure to meet?
I would say funniest members would be Noah. It's pretty funny. Barbara's pretty funny. And then coaching staff wise, Dominique, or Kiki as she's known, she's got some stories and that she's funny too. So those would be my top three.
What was the biggest culture shock you kind of experienced from coming from England to Florida?
It had to be the weather. Every day sunny.
The weather does get crazy over there in England. I've been there once. It's pretty nuts. So you mentioned your heralding journey to Chick-fil-A over at PG5, but what would you say is your go-to spot to grab food on campus so far?
Tropical smoothie right here next to the OCC. It's
Easy
closest to the office, and it's quick.
Hey, that's what everyone says, so I don't blame you for it.
But if I am being honest, green chicken across the street. If I have if I'm willing to take the drive, that's where I'm going. So if it's a walk-in lunch, it's just next door. But if I'm in the mood for something good, then I'll go over to green chicken.
I love it. What's the best FIU uniform that you guys have, in your opinion, from the ones we've seen?
The Vice uniform that they created last year that the girls designed. I think that's a kit we're going to be wearing quite often because I like that one.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Pretty simple question. I got to tell you, who is the GOAT of soccer?
Oof. I'm a Ronaldo fan, though. Even though Messi's here, I'm going Ronaldo.
All right, that's pretty sick. So, all righty, Coach Dunn, again, you've been super awesome so far, and we can't thank you enough. Now, if you have anything you would like to say to the fans, to FIU, to just anybody in general, the floor is now yours.
I would like to see the stands full for all of our home games, as many people as we can get in the stands. We'll try to get some giveaways out there to really fill it up, but you guys could be that extra man in the stands would be great for all our home games. We tried to put as many home games at night as we could as well, so that the weather's not too hot and the sun's not in your eyes. So if we could turn the home games into a bit of a fortress, that would be great for the girls on the field.
Well, you heard the man. You better pack those stands. I think it's going to be a pretty fun upcoming season for women's soccer led by Coach Dunn. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. So for Coach Dunn and women's soccer, for Kevin Barral and myself, we're saying so long. Go watch some soccer. And until next time, Paws Up!